request to be moved?
Did you request it?
Did you request it to be moved? We're not the first one to come into this.
Rick, I will take it off.
You want us to go over the vote?
Oh, did I?
You didn't do the whole meeting.
All right, let's call roll. Rusty,
Here.
Rich,
Here.
Stephanie here. Rom is not here, but will be coming late. Harvey,
Here.
Ken,
Yes, ma'am.
and Teresa. We're all here. Thank y'all. Harvey, do you mind doing this?
I'm gonna defer.
To Ken?
What did you say?
Do you mind doing the invitation, please?
I think it's an invitation. It's like y'all are welcome to come. Absolutely not. Lord, we love you and thank you for the privilege, the honor to be able to shepherd a small part of this community. Lord, I ask that you give us wisdom, you give us discernment, and courage. You know, make decisions that are right, that make Marion County a little bit more like heaven. And Lord, shepherd over the funds and assets that you've trusted us. We just ask this in your son's name. Amen.
Thank you, yeah, right. Do we have any public comments? Did you have something else? Okay. Hearing no public comments, we will move on to the approval of the previous minutes. The first is the workshop we need to approve. If everyone had a chance to read those, we'll take a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Moving on to August 26 minutes, we do have a correction in the minutes. It's on page 6. Reference the MOU, it should be 3 million and not 3.5 million.
Noted.
So if y'all will note that, and then with that note, assuming that that will be corrected, if we could get a motion to approve.
Motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, okay. Moving on to new business, Kurt?
All right, just a real brief update. I did have this information in the packet for you, so I won't go line by line, but just I was pretty happy with the feedback after the meeting, and hopefully our workshop was beneficial, at least from the standpoint that it seemed like we reached some consensus about moving the pillars, consolidating, moving smoking under behavioral pillar and obesity under diabetes, and then later on we'll take an actual vote on the new 5 pillars, and then we also have a consensus to add 2 new pillars, unintentional injuries, which also go by the name of non-chronic diseases and external causes, but we selected unintentional injuries as the name of the pillar, and then prevention is the 5th pillar. And then, so altogether, the 5 updated health pillars: behavioral, dental, diabetes, unintentional injuries, and prevention. So,
If
that was-
approved.
If approved, that's right. Just to recap. Just wanted to also let people know, it's not something that we would normally cover here, but it's something that Deborah and I have been keeping our eye on. We're always looking at what affects the continuum of care of our providers, and not just our pillars, but other areas that impact us. So one area that's related to a lot of the families that we try to serve here in Marion County are for crisis intervention services and survivors of abuse and neglect. They're taking a pretty big hit through something called VOCA funding. You'll hear VOCA. This is a Victims of Crime Act that was created back in 1984. And basically, if there's a federal crime, an individual who committed that crime either has a fine or has to pay some restitution, it goes into this fund. And this fund has been depleting little by little over time, but this fund was huge, and it turned into a block grant to all the states. So a lot of organizations like, I had a list here, what were some of the
Kimberly Center.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
CASA of Marion, which is our domestic violence provider, Marion Sexual Assault and Recovery.
Project Hope, yeah. So and there's other organizations. Now, some of them, it's just a little bit of funding, and other ones, it's more significant. But over the last couple of years, they've taken a hit. This year, there's an anticipated additional 25% reduction coming from this fund. We will not know the complete impact of that till probably next month or the month after. But we're just keeping an eye on it and keeping in contact with our community partners to see if there's anything that we can do or help draw down funding like we did with CASA for their survivors. So also, I wanted to let you know we're constantly going around looking for other models that we can potentially bring here to Marion County, and or ones that we should not consider. And one that we visited was interesting. We wanted to see what collaborations organizations like ours or health foundations have with their hospitals in other areas. So we went and toured the Winter Park Foundation and Advent Health Facility called the Center for Wellbeing. And the interesting thing about it was they integrated into one location. So it's almost like Lifetime Fitness, where in a single location you have some medical services, some rehabilitative services, but then you also have some lifestyle change and also opportunities for actual physical fitness on site. Well, this is a massive facility. Think of it maybe 4 or 5 times the size of Lifetime Fitness. Not saying that that model is needed here, but what it does is it takes something like Active Marion Project, fitness and nutrition in schools, the nutrition education. Then it integrates directly into the treatment side. So they have bariatric treatment, they have nutritionists on site, and then they also do elements of well-being or just psychiatric, but more from the standpoint of dealing with the stresses of daily life, improper sleep, and keeping your cortisol levels low. Now, it was an amazing program. The difference is Winter Park's slightly different than Marion County. So they're able to self-sustain this project because the individuals going there often pay memberships and fees. But there were aspects of it that we've been looking at, such as physicians giving prescriptions for healthy food. And they have versions of that at this location. So we'll bring you more information, but we visited it. We were very intrigued. The most interesting thing that we've been talking about for some time was they not only had a very healthy cafeteria there, that they prepare the food there on site, and they have the fresh produce right there in walk-in facilities, but they also had a demonstration center where they had the cameras up, they had the demonstration bar where basically everyone would sit around and learn how to prepare healthy foods with standard food that you would buy at the grocery store, not exotic, and make in meal planning for healthy food options. So that was very intriguing because it was very similar to models that we've seen before, but this one in particular, they really had their act together. Did you have anything to add to that?
It was very unique how it was funded and all, like in comparison to here.
Yeah. So we're going to share that with Advent Health because Ocala, just because we wanted to see if they could integrate more of some of our lifestyle change programming into their medicine and their treatment, because we saw a model right there. And so we don't have to recreate the wheel, they are actually doing it there.
But those are probably insured people up down there now.
They are for there.
So why do we need to worry about the insured people?
We don't. That's my point. If there is a way for us to model that where it can help the average person or those who are underinsured, then there might be means for that.
I know I've been out close to those kind
So it's part of our discussion as to how we can collaborate on a project like that. The other thing is, we also did a visit that's interesting. It's our second time looking at a model like this. So we're not into housing, but a lot of our community partners are into permanent and supportive housing and how to keep people housed. And a lot of the issues, as many of you know, are the underlying behavioral health and substance use disorder conditions that individuals have when they're underhoused or they're homeless. So this will be our second visit. This one, they actually reached out to SMA saying, we do this across the state. Ivan Cassini, the CEO of SMA Healthcare, came to us and said, these people are the real deal. They do it all across the state, and they have different models for every community depending on what the needs are. Some are more, so think of it this way. It's called Community Assisted and Supported Living, or CASTLE, they call it. So you have a large facility, in many cases that's what we visited, where it's a housing complex, but integrated directly into it, you have primary care from a federally qualified health center. You have behavioral health and substance use disorder services. You have job navigation. You have everything there on campus providing the service, because that's where they found the greatest chance of keeping people housed and taking care of their issues, is having it right there available to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then the other key is having a navigator there that basically, here's your plan, this is what we need to accomplish, and keeps you on that plan. And taking care of those underlying problems has been very successful for them. And the thing that I like about them is they don't make a cookie cutter model. They make it based on what your population looks like and what the realm of services, supportive services are needed for that community.
of. Is it called for?
Carrefour is doing, it's almost the exact same thing. They go after similar dollars. Their population is specific to behavioral health, substance use disorder, like that population of individuals. They also do stuff for intellectually disabled and have different models of it. So I think they're going after those types of dollars as well to wrap around into theirs, whereas Carrefour is, they have some of those wraparound services.
It's just another.
It's just another organization doing the same thing.
Good.
And what they do is they get the funding for building a facility and they take care of the management of it, but then they bring in the wraparound services.
Right, and that's kind of saving more.
Same.
They got
Yes.
$23 million,
Yes,
59 homes,
59, yeah.
yeah.
and then Saving Mercy's building the rest of them. But I think they're building the rest of the infrastructure, Saving Mercy, call for it.
Yes,
Little admin buildings or whatever.
so it is very similar. It's just
That's great.
another, so,
Another 60 beds or 100 beds.
yeah, possibly, who knows?
Are they homes or are they, how does it
No.
work?
No, it's an apartment complex. They have some apartment complexes, some areas they've done duplexes, just depends on what the property is, what the facility is, what the residential potential community is around them, if they want to say yes or no to the housing project. A lot of variables.
Interesting, and it was just for informational purposes, and at least we met with the CEO of Castle, who I believe is out of Miami. And
Sarasota.
Sarasota, that's right.
The
This
two
one's-
metrics for these guys would be, what is the cost per person housed per year? Because like that one in Austin is outrageous.
Right.
It's $48,000 or $50,000 per person, which is, oh yeah, it's crazy.
That's true.
And
What
the
do they
people,
offer there?
people think it's great. They think it's the benchmark of housing, and it's $50,000.
It's a benchmark.
Yeah.
It just may not be scalable.
Yeah, Michael Dell just dumped in $75 million into it.
And then the last thing, just in general, I wanted to make sure if you weren't aware that the Board of County Commissioners honored the hospital district with a award and
So how much?
Forcing something on you can be very difficult.
an award, not a reward. And they're very generous. But it was really about the collaboration that we had, because it's truly unique with the county, community services, and the hospital district, and how we built Beacon Point. Everything from the acquisition to the renovation to then us having some sustainable model. In the beginning, we didn't. You know, it was really a leap of faith because we were funding everything going on there. And then we had to work with the state and convince them this is a really significant project that you can use as a model in other communities if you get the right partner. So thank you for the recognition. That was very kind.
Very well deserved.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving into strategic initiatives, I think that we have a guest. Jessica?
I think Randy's gonna introduce.
Okay.
Good evening. We have Jessica Fieldhouse here with Ocala Main Street to present a funding request for Heart and the Park. She's their executive director.
Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we need that.
Randy's pulling up a PowerPoint for me. I'll go ahead and just jump in for sake of time. But thank you for the introduction. I'm excited to be here to present the Heart of the Park to you all. It is a model for a community hub for wellness and connectivity. We acquired the historic American Legion building pictured there from the city of Ocala at the end of last year. And it is our intention to turn it into, as I mentioned, the Heart of the Park. We are seeking an investment, a capital investment of $150,000 from the Marion County Hospital District to be able to activate this space and connect our community to health resources, educational programs, and wellness activities. Now, we've been working on this for about 2.5 years now, so I am excited to finally be able to present this. And when we initially started our conversations with the city of Ocala, we always had the intention of having a health partner as part of this project. Not only because it's in the south of the park and it makes sense with the recreational activities that are there, but because we really want to focus on health and wellness in our community. We're all things downtown, that's what our organization focuses on. And some people would kill me for saying this. Everybody complains that we have a parking problem in downtown, but we don't. We have a walking problem, which I think is a cultural problem for our community. And so this made a lot of sense for our board to be able to activate an active space on the north end of our district. And then when we started looking at who we wanted to partner with as a health partner, we went on the hospital district's website and well, your pillars may be changing, but the pillars today, we realized that we actually were covering 4 of the 5 current pillars. You know, obviously AMP falls under 3 of those, diabetes, obesity, and tobacco. So a lot of the programs that we're going to be offering and what we're proposing for programming at the Heart of the Park really does collaboratively work with those 4 pillars. We want to be able to work with the hospital district's internal programs, as well as partner with your funded partners and offering space for them to be able to come in and provide programs focused in these 4 areas. Now, our initial inspiration for this project was Depot Park. It's up in Gainesville. If you haven't been, highly recommend. It's fantastic. We will drive our children all the way to Gainesville because of the amenities that they have here. Because when you look at these photos, you see just a park, but really what they did was turn it into a community hub. If you could go to the next slide. And it really focuses on community cohesion and healthy living. And this is what we want to model Tuscaloosa Park after. It used to be a gem of our community. There's a lot of issues with crime and vagrancy right now in Tuscaloosa. So it's not the go-to location for a lot of our families or youth in our community right now, and that is what we want to change. For a local example of success, we have the Mary Sue Rich Center. Obviously, you invested in this program, so you understand the impact and the importance of what this is doing for West Ocala. We don't have anything like this in downtown. And downtown truly is the core of our community. It's the hub for a lot of activity, and we want to be able to replicate the success at Mary Sue Rich in the downtown area. And we know that this will spur additional conversations, and again, trying to create more of a culture of health focus at the core of our community. We know that we can partner in your specific direct programming. So with Active Marion, as an example, we know we want to motivate our community to be healthier. We will be able to provide a brick and mortar location, not just for AMP, but for fans and CHP, and again, your funded partner programs, because they've proven success, and it falls under what you're already investing in, and we want to be able to provide a space in the downtown area for them to do that. We do have a space dedicated for our partner, our health partner within the building, so we can provide case management, individual one-on-one classes or services, and it could even be used for smaller classes. We do have a large ballroom space that could be utilized for larger classes or workshops. Think the deep or silver sneakers or nutrition workshops, or even be able to host Freedom dental clinics at that site. As I mentioned, with funded partners of yours, like Freedom Clinic and Heart of Florida, they would have the opportunity to provide classes at that location. But we also want to work with other community partners, the hospitals, senior services, UF Health, to provide diabetes education, Eat Healthy, Be Active, Zumba, yoga, substance abuse and vaping education, wellness and emotions, vision screenings. We want to stack the calendar, and we want health to be the focus in this location. We did say that we have a great relationship with the city of Ocala. If I didn't say it, I was thinking it. We have a great relationship with them. And part of our conversations with them have been to reinvigorate Tuscaloosa, add more facilities within that area, and activate some of those facilities that are underutilized currently. And then we want to encourage healthy lifestyles through a corner store that we're going to be building out to offer healthy food options for folks in the park, as well as amenities like tennis rackets and balls and frisbees and things that can be utilized within the park as well. Now, for fitness and nutrition in schools, fans, my kids love this program. Every time they go to Blessed Trinity, and every time we have the Harvest Festival, that's like the first location that they go to, and I have a water bottle to prove it. So I know that it works, and we want to increase the physical fitness opportunities for youth in Tuscaloosa. Florida heat makes it really difficult for extended stays in the park. My two little girls, I love to take them to Tuscaloosa, but we're there for maximum 30 minutes because mom is done after 30 minutes. There's no respite, there's no way to get hydration or snacks or any kind of break for the kids, and so we know that this will be a great opportunity to be able to support those park goers. And if we can bring kids outside for longer, we can help combat childhood obesity and diabetes. As mentioned on the screen, just like for the AMP program, it provides a space for fans programming, diabetes management, nutrition education, youth-friendly outdoor activities. And we want to activate the exterior part of the building as well with pop-up boot camps, workouts with the mayor. He's already started doing some stuff in Tuscaloosa, but we want weekly yoga, nature walks. We really want to be able to activate and light up the park so we can reduce the crime and vagrancy, so kids and parents feel safe bringing their kids out for those longer times. Tuscaloosa is an LMI population area, and so Community Home Project would be a great fit for this area to be able to provide this programming to the surrounding residents. Again, you'll have the two options for space to be able to provide those classes. But I think the most exciting thing too is when we look at reducing the barriers for the folks that are around that area. We want to increase the walkability, the bike traffic, and bring people into and around the park. The mobile hosting of the clinics on site, there's this really great driveway on the south end of the property that we envision the mobile clinics pulling up, either for a one-off program just for them or as part of a larger community event. Ocala Main Street, just to toot our own horn a little bit, we do have a success in community connection. With this project in particular, we anticipate 30,000 visitors to the building, and I will say that that is very conservative when we host events in downtown. The larger scale events, they bring out between 2,500 and 5,000 people per event. So just the quarterly events alone would get us really close to that number, but between the corner store, the daily classes that we want to offer, and the increased park traffic, you know that this is a conservative number. We'll obviously, our event calendar is the cornerstone of our promotional efforts. We bring in a large audience. You can see on the screen that we have a large reach, over almost 330,000 people that we're able to tap into. And so we did receive a grant from the TDC specifically for marketing, just for the heart of the park. So we'll be able to actually invest a little bit more, because this is all free. These aren't paid ads or anything. So they truly are unique. But we know that this is something that we're really good at, bringing people out and connecting them to the programs that we're offering. I won't go through the details on this. You can read through the history of the project. As I mentioned, it's been a while since we started gearing up for this, but the important thing to note is we will be starting construction in October. I am due in January, which is when the project should be wrapping up, so we'll be doing a soft launch in the spring. That's when we'll be activating all the programming, and then we'll do a grand opening for Easter time in May of 2025. So again, the heart of the park truly is about fostering a sense of community, social connectedness, and overall quality of life for our residents. And when I talk about this project with anybody, we talk about the importance of it for the community, not just for this generation, but for generations to come. So thank you again for the time and letting me speak about it a little bit more today. And I do have some time, I think, for questions if anybody has any.
What is the $150,000 for?
For the renovation of the building portion of it. The total renovation costs are $400,000, and then it would be the use of the space for 5 years with option to renew. We have 2 lease terms with the city of Ocala, so up to 15 years.
And where's the other $250 coming from?
We have $80,000 that will be reimbursed by the city it's designated dollars for fumigation, any kind of remediation that we need on the property, HVAC. We do have an individual donor for $75,000 that's already committed. We have $47,000 that is committed by additional corporate donors that we have secured already, and then the additional funding, which I think is about $53,000 will come from in-kind. We're trying to get in-kind donations for the lumber, windows, cabinets, those types of things.
And what's the ongoing operational cost to maintain that?
Sure, so our lease is only $1 a year, which is great. And then when we did the anticipated budget with the city of Ocala during the procurement process, it was going to be around $80,000 annually, and that would include staff to maintain it. So staffing was not part of our request to any of our donors. With the venue, rental generation, and our corner store, we will be able to cover the cost and then some. So it is a sustainability thing for Ocala Main Street as well.
So it's going to cost you roughly $80,000 to operate it?
Yes.
And you've got enough revenue coming in from rental?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And all the wraparound services how are they being paid for?
We want to partner with all of the providers that you all would recommend,
Do you
essentially.
have commitments from out of Florida or?
Not specifically yet, because our programming will start in the spring. We do have a piece of the internal space, which is the ballroom. We have museum partners. Those have all been committed at this point. But again, I think we want to focus on the direct programming through Marion County Hospital District, and then with whatever funded partners you all would recommend to use the space. As far as individual providers, like weekly yoga providers, we have already been in conversation with some of those. Obviously, the City of Ocala and the Recreation and Parks Department, they have a lot of resources and classes that they would be willing and are willing to work with us in providing. And then from there, it's a pretty easy ask. I mean, we're saying you can use our building for free, come out, and we just want to generate the traffic and the people to the building.
So what's the overall strategy that the city has to clean the park up and to make it a friendly, safe environment for families to come to?
Sure, so this actually was their catalytic site for Tuscaloosa, and so when we sat down with them, this was exactly what they were wanting to see happen on the south end. They know, as we do, or any planner really, that if you activate an area that is dealing with what Tuscaloosa is dealing with, that you will ultimately reduce the crime and vagrancy in that area. It also ties into the connectedness with the other 3 developments that are happening in Midtown right now. So while Tuscaloosa is its own zone within the Midtown district, we kind of just join it together with Midtown. And so there is a strategic plan with the Vision 2050 that they're getting ready to roll out soon on the connectedness, the walking paths, additional lighting. And I know that Pete has his own plans of kind of rearranging Tuscaloosa and moving some of those facilities around, taking our project into consideration.
So what would some of the benchmarks be that we can look at that would determine whether or not this is a success, as far as it's doing what we thought it would do?
Sure, so we, on the grant application, we focused on 4 things. We wanted to be able to track increased park participation. There's a way to geographically do that through AI now, so we'll be able to track that. Who we're partnering with on a quarterly basis, and the continuation of programming within the park. The days that are the park, or the heart of the park is actually active, and then attendance inside the building, whether it be through events or classes or whatnot.
You mentioned a minute ago that you thought the cost, I think you asked, to run the program was $80,000. Is
Yes.
that in addition to what your cost is on your P&L through 23?
Yes, the operating costs are separate. The $80,000 will probably start realistically in 2025, like Q3 of 2025, because again, the overhead is really low. It's going to be bringing staff on, additional staff. And right now, there isn't a need to do that, but long-term, that's going to be the biggest portion of that operating cost is additional staff. And we do have a plan to start renting ahead of time, and so we will be offering that out to the community to be able to rent the ballroom on weekends. We want civic groups to be in there, like the Rotary Clubs, Lion Clubs, Boy Scout groups, to utilize the space, because again, the more people we have going into the building, obviously we're doing what we need to do, which is activate the park, get bodies into the park, and create more of a safe environment for folks to feel like comfortable to be able to come out and enjoy what we're offering at the heart of the park.
Can you expand a little bit more on how y'all are going to draw from the community home project? How are you going to?
We originally, when we did a walkthrough, we talked about utilizing the space to be able to offer classes. My background, I worked at United Way, so we had the Strong Families program, and we know that those weekend or the evening classes are really effective at being able to provide any type of resources, focusing on health and financial resources, which I know the program focuses on. So it really is offering a space for the Marion County Hospital District to be able to run their classes and have a cohort there, essentially.
So we would need to have the staffing come there. Potentially that could cause us to have to use more staff, right?
Well, it's just providing, like a facility to do it if we choose to, is that
Yeah,
correct?
Correct.
Whether it be us or whether it be one of our community partners that we're currently working with.
Free rent.
Right.
It's not free, $150.
Yes.
But then it's free.
Yeah, then it's free.
So, I apologize, I probably should know this, but tell me a little bit about Ocala Main Street.
Sure. Our mission is to revitalize downtown Ocala, and we say downtown loosely because we have covered the entire downtown CRA, which goes from the S-curve all the way up to the Riley Arts Center, from 301 to Wauchula. We're the largest single district in the state of Florida. So we work quite exclusively with the city of Ocala as the liaison to all the businesses in the downtown area. We focus a lot with the developers and the businesses to increase traffic, promote them, and obviously try to activate inactive spaces, so that's part of our strategic plan right now. We have a lot of underutilized space in the north end of our district, so some of our upcoming initiatives, our Lane on Main program and activating the O-Track will focus on increasing foot traffic, and we have specific programming focus on bike traffic in downtown as well. But we work really closely with the city of Ocala to try to strategically activate different areas of the district and promote businesses.
So on this funding, so are we the last, I guess traditionally you've always been last dollars in, and we've had some kind of mechanism behind how to monitor that process and how much that's going in. Is that would this follow that same process?
Yes. If you need an answer from me, yes. Right, so we would ask for a letter of intent from the Board of Trustees, just stating that you're committed to the project. We're fronting all of the costs with the additional donor dollars that we're receiving, and then we would be seeking reimbursement essentially for the dollars that we've had to put into the project.
So you have the money and you want to reimburse it?
We don't have all of the money, so we are breaking it into different phases. If we have to, as far as construction timeline, just to be able to meet what we need to, we may have to go and get a loan. Unless you want to cut us a check.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So that doesn't, we're not taking action on that today.
We'll send out the application package to the trustees so they can evaluate and we can generate additional questions. So-
This, sorry, one-time investment, that's what I was getting to.
Yeah, I would just ask that in that process, if we could perhaps put a little structure around how we would fund it, what would require upon funding it, those kind of things, Kurt. I mean, maybe some follow-up if we go this route as to the impact of this facility.
I would like our staff to kick in with some of the ideas that she suggested to see if those programs like the idea or not going there. And so I'd like to try to get some agreements before we would, we know it's going to be used.
Yeah.
Can I suggestion, the folks up in Gainesville, right, is that, can they come and make a presentation for exactly what the data, how much it costs for them to do, and how it impacted the community? Get an idea of what we can do?
Potentially, yes. It's a little different as far as they don't have an internal facility where they're offering classes. It's more event-based, and they do have a corner store. But I can talk to their city and see if they're willing to come and present about the impact.
Or we could go visit it, like.
Or Deborah can go visit it and come back.
Trustee.
I think that will probably provide you more information than somebody coming down here, what they're willing to come down.
I'll get more of them if you go down.
That's fine, I get more information. Okay. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Thank you. All right.
Your vote is here, that's
Yes,
me.
that's you.
I laid things out a little bit differently, so I think it was impossible for me to find it. So, this isn't in the packet, but I just consolidated the graphs that I had at the other workshop. So, just reiterating for actual vote on this, we had consensus to move smoking under the behavioral pillar.
Can I just make a motion?
Yes.
I mean, we talked about that, haven't we?
Yeah. Oh,
Yes, please make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion.
oh, good. That's
Make a
easier.
motion to accept it as is presented.
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
That's
Moving
I didn't mean to cut you off, Kirk, we just did this.
But I had a whole speech prepared.
Look, no, I don't want to say it again. I
All
should
right, moving on.
You practiced it on me like 5 times.
Sorry.
No.
Not at home.
Okay.
Okay, so recommended funding of health projects.
Randy?
We had 2 new projects that submitted applications for this coming fiscal year. Just to give you a backstory of what that looks like, it's about an 8-page grant application along with a detailed budget narrative and their proposed outcomes that they can produce for the next year. The first grant application is with United Hands, that's the Food and Dental Clinic. We have a grant with them, but they are proposing a project for a denture program to serve 60 individuals. They do have some additional dollars coming in from a state grant for free and charitable clinics, and they're asking for $70,000.
So $11,000 for
60 clients.
60 clients.
Yeah, it's
It's
$11,000.
up to 5 visits per client.
100.
That's zero.
Math.
I'm going to the pension business.
Sorry, Randy, but that's okay.
So each client can receive it can take up to 5 visits for them to be fully fitted, receive the dentures back. And the grant dollars for the other grant are going towards to pay for the dentist, and they're requesting funds from the hospital district to pay for lab fees, dental supplies. They piloted this project this year themselves, very small, and they'd like to scale it up.
So what's the difference from what we funded for now?
You're not funding for prosthetics of people's teeth, we're just funding for like cleanings, x-rays, just your
Well,
basic.
total $217.
Oh, that's the
That's the
next
next
one. That's the second project.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one would just be,
I get that. Yeah, it was 217.
Out of curiosity, do we know what they cost for dentures? Like a regular?
Yeah.
5 to 10 grand.
Yeah, $5,000 to $10,000.
They're getting it at a very discounted cost because of the different dentists that they work with and the dental school.
George Washington special.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So people will just apply, or they get chosen when they pick?
A lot of our Beacon Point people who teeth have deteriorated with the drugs.
so oftentimes they have a list of people in need, and then they'll go through a hierarchy of needs depending on the individual situation.
So they're all vetted, it's a deep base.
It is. They're very used to it because they're usually serving them with the primary dental services.
I went to that one clinic that one time, they do a heck of a job. Like,
It's amazing.
I mean,
Yeah.
if we're gonna ask clients for money, I have no issue with $1,100, so
No?
No,
Not for 5 services
no,
for one client.
I think it's a win. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing today, just discussing it, or we're supposed to make a motion, or what are we supposed to do?
it's good.
Yeah.
It just needs approval.
Okay. You want to do one time, or you want to do both? or-
One at a time would be fine.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve this first one.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, good job.
Thank you. The second application is from Heart of Florida. Now, as you know, the Langley Mobile Dental Unit is not going to be in Marion County 5 days a week, starting tomorrow. I don't have their full schedule yet, but we do know that they're going to continue providing services 1 day a week at Community Home Project. And Heart of Florida is requesting funding for a dentist to help fill that gap.
How much
And
are we
also-
funding Langley?
We're not now, we're working.
Yeah, we're not funding.
What's the delta? What were we funding?
Well, we're still this lit funding is called, so we were matching, like, we were matching about 39% of the total value for the lit.
What was that?
Are we saying?
233,000.
It's
So-
looking worse.
So in comparison, we're funding Langley to serve right around the same number, is just under 700 uninsured clients. And so it's a little less costly for us for about the same number.
Right, that's what I was getting, is it a better deal, worse deal, or, yeah, so it sounds like it's a better deal.
Well, but there was a bus involved on the first one.
So they were going around and doing it,
Yeah, so-
so the bus that was in the room.
Is this stationary?
This is stationary, it'd be the dentist here, this main
Yeah,
location.
It's just, that's the difference.
It-
I'm not saying, we were going to rent, we were going to work.
It'll, correct, but it will be operating 5 days a week
As
versus
opposed to one
as
day.
opposed to bouncing around to different things. And if transportation's an issue, that's one thing we talked about with part of Florida, is trying to figure out the transportation piece. If it's a Beacon Point client, we've got our peers that can transport them to.
These are unduplicated clients? Like the same person goes in 3 times?
Correct.
That's
That
one-
is
that's one.
unduplicated clients.
We're giving them dental money now, though, correct? Part of Florida?
That was for pediatric, and
Oh,
we're
that's
not
pediatric,
doing
yes.
that.
Or not this year, not this
Right.
coming.
This is for,
It titrated down until it was self-sufficient. So that ends this.
And they get no dental money from us?
So they get LIP funding, which they can use for any uncompensated care, including behavioral health, primary care.
But we defined what we wanted them to use it for, right? When we
Not-
gave the lift funding, yeah, we can, we did it every year.
Not Heart of Florida. Langley we did. Langley, we said they had to use it for the dental bus.
My memory's not what it was, but I have a pretty good recollection that the reason we gave the lift funding was they were increasing the dental services for adults, and there was a separate tranche of money for the pediatric. So I'm just wondering how that, so at the end of the year, we're gonna see that they handled 700 more dental patients than they handled the year before. Not that they're gonna show us they handled 700 patients, they're gonna show us they handled 700 more patients.
We'll make sure that that's.
Right? I mean,
Yes.
that's a big
Yes.
difference, because I really do think that's
They're trying to increase their capacity.
by 700.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, one full-time person just dedicated to uninsured clients. Yeah. I think it'll be, and also, just in terms of what we dealt with the bus.
Oh, yeah, that was a,
Yeah,
that's a shocking, really.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to handle the transportation issues and getting people to access points. So that'll be our next.
So how do we fund it? If we do this, how do we fund it? Is it on a monthly basis, quarterly basis?
Quarterly, probably.
Quarterly basis? In arrears?
Yeah, so we pay,
Upfront?
Yeah, we get your money, 3 months later, you say we did this,
Right.
The matches what you
Yeah,
did.
okay.
or not, we write adjustments.
Yeah, we'll adjust it. If you didn't spend all your
Okay.
funding,
So we'll see, this.
It can only be for 90 days.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
so the 281 that they're contributing, where do they get their money from? Over here, it says new project, Heart of Florida is contributing 281,000.
I'll have to ask them.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, that's not us, is it? It's not
it
us.
may be.
I'm just asking.
It may be in their other.
I mean, I don't care, as long as they get in a pot, I just want to make sure it's not our pot.
Funds, but
It's
we'll
not our
find out.
pot.
So I got a feeling.
Is it
yeah,
uninsured or un and under? I mean, so will they be receiving some income?
Yes.
from this as well?
yeah.
This one doesn't say like the other one, this one just says.
Yeah, so under and uninsured, yes. So it's what they consider uncompensated care.
And I went to the one for Freedom Dental, and those people wait 3 months to get in line, and then if they have to fill out the paper and qualify for that one morning, and then they bring all these university students and all these friends, and they try to get as many people as they can, and once every 3 months just doesn't get it. I mean, that's the core of what we're trying to do. right?
Because they have a sliding fee scale for people that can pay based on their income, but it may not be enough to pay for the actual service.
Right.
Yeah. So this is really theoretically replacing the gap we
Replacing.
picked up,
Yes.
because Langley,
Yeah.
The only change is really it's in one location versus the
yeah,
rest of them.
which is a little,
Yeah.
So we have a plan for transportation, just in case, right?
But we have a plan if they're Beacon Point clients, we can get, or SMA clients in any capacity, we can get them transported. Matt Clay shared with us that that was a thing that he was working on. I mean, if you think about it, they're on the bus lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's gotta be, I mean, if you don't, I guess we find a way to
Get
get
here.
Yeah, they're on the bus lines, so that's something.
And the Langley bus was at 3 locations
Yes.
this year, so we just have to take care of those 3 for now as we, and Heart of Florida is always looking for new access points, so.
But is there a population in Liberty County that we aren't able to give those uninsured?
Yeah, rural is always the tough.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, but so that, will that have the impact on that?
Freedom out there.
No, Forest is Redding. So this is almost 300,000 of our designated, our discretionary funding?
It's gonna happen.
You didn't really think they were gonna let us keep
It's
it?
every year.
For the,
No,
This
yes.
is every year.
Correct.
I didn't think they were really gonna let us keep that 1.2 million. Or-
No, correct. That would be trustee designated.
And can they draw dollars down next year through LIP funding because of Langley Group? Because you can cut that by 60%.
you can ask.
Yeah, we can ask.
Because we just lost that money, right, the community, Langley.
So what happened, it's unique because Heart of Florida, and it's a really good question. So Heart of Florida serves only one county. So they have to get their match to draw down state and federal dollars from an intergovernmental taxing authority, hospital district. And they have to get it from a source in that county. Langley serves 3 counties. They can get 100% of their low-income pool match, someone like us, from a single source. And they could use it in any county they want.
But they won't. I mean, why would they?
Here's
So
why.
if I'm Lake County and I'm giving you 100% of the funding, and they're gonna tell me, well, we're gonna spend 1/3 of the money you gave us in Marion County,
Here's
I
why.
would say, what do you think about that?
Here's why they will. How you draw down the bulk of your funds, because that isn't all the funds. You receive additional funds for providing services. You have to prove that you're serving a certain number of people or that there's greater need to draw down additional dollars. So they're going to, Langley's going to want to serve as many people as they can, including uninsured, to prove need. That draws down more dollars for them to prove the need. So,
I know, but if you're the funder, like if we were the funder,
yeah,
and they're telling us that they have a big need in Lake County, so if you guys give us 39 cents on the dollar, we can get the other 61 cents.
so if you're a single, or if you're a single entity that's serving the 3 counties, you basically know that you can pay for, you can basically make up the amount of uncompensated care clients you can serve or pay yourself back for more of them, because it's just a pool.
I know, Kurt, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
there's no bus and there's no dental people being taken care of by Langley. Last year there was. So those services are not being provided, even if they are taking down the same amount of money. Because if they were still taking down the same amount of money, then we should be sitting here saying, why are you getting rid of the bus? The fact of the matter is, they're not going to spend the money in Marion County because they discontinued the bus. And that's all okay. The question is there like, that money that nobody is presenting a need for, obviously, right? They're not presenting a need in Marion County, they're presenting a need in Lake County, and then they can fund it, they can move it over here, right? If this need hasn't changed here, but the amount of LIP funding has changed here, there's a possibility they can move the LIP funding that they will give it to Langley over to us for the needs in Marion County, and then we get that leverage again.
Yeah. I get you.
There's still, we'll have to ask that question. We're gonna have to ask Matt Clay.
No,
It doesn't quite work that way. I get what you're saying, so that'll be a deeper dive. So we can sit down and talk about that one, but how they utilize the funds is kind of fungible. How they utilize it, yes, you're right. I think the primary reason for the utilization of the bus isn't the lack of or availability of LIP of funding. It's that they want to use that same bus for 3 locations. And they know that, you know, that's a primary purpose of us funding them.
Maybe not the other point, but on this transportation issue,
Yeah.
to reach that population that cannot get to Hartford to have dental service. I mean, are they just out of luck? I mean, how do we service that? Freedom will still do that. Okay. So whatever Langley was doing, they're not doing anymore, is not going to have
They're
impact on the
still
population.
actually going to be in Marion County, just to be clear. They're just not gonna operate 5 days a week here. We're still waiting on a schedule for them, so in all actuality, we're adding services to Marion County, because they're
Okay.
still gonna run their dental bus. It's just not gonna be 5 days a week like it was designated.
It might be 1 day a week or 1 day a month, we don't know the answer to that.
Okay. There is some.
They're still
It's not
responsible.
restricted by.
And also, here's who serves the population, so those aren't the only ones. So you have Freedom Clinic serving underinsured and uninsured. Then you have Heart of Florida in multiple locations. And then you have Langley still operating at their location out in the shores and limited bus. But then you have Department of Health at the Hampton Center. So we do, and they serve the same population. So we have multiple places that we can work on transportation if someone is in a pocket that we can get them the services.
Thank you, Tway.
If I make a motion to approve that one?
All right, we have a motion, we need a second.
Second.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Randy, thank you. Thank you.
Start with Jessica Cole.
All right.
Good evening. I'm going to call your attention to page 15 in your packet. These are the performance measures, objectives, and goals, beginning with FAM, CHP, and Active Marion Project. We strive to keep the performance measures the same year to year, just so that we can evaluate efficacy of the programs and the data that we're collecting. Occasionally, you will see a performance measure that changes, and I will go over a few. Our goals generally will always increase, and you will note that in the data that you are looking at. On occasion, that will not be the case. So for example, one of our goals for FAMs pertaining to moderate to vigorous physical activity, the standard for that, the national standard for increasing a child's heart rate in physical education is 50 to 60% of the time. So obviously we can't continue to increase that every year. They have to have appropriate time for warming up, cooling down. So that would be an example of why we would not increase a goal. But in general, you will see most of the goals are increasing from this last fiscal year. We do provide that information for every single objective and performance measure in red, just so that you can see what we're evaluating from this fiscal year to the performance measures for next fiscal year. I will call your attention to one change. Under FAMs, we do have one new performance measure. We had to replace a measure because the school system was no longer utilizing a certain assessment that they were originally doing pre and post tests for nutrition education and PE. They are doing away with that this year, so we can no longer keep that as a performance measure. So our PE program specialist chose to take that as an opportunity to look at moderate to vigorous physical activity for secondary students. We were not looking at that previously. So now she's going in, utilizing our technology and making sure that what we are providing to PE in secondary does meet that standard for moderate to vigorous physical activity. You will also see in your packet brand new performance measures and objectives for our FAMs private schools and therapeutic gardens. While we have been collecting data all along, those were not previously in MindShare, so we have added those as performance measures that will be available to you on our scorecards in MindShare. For CHP, we do break the goals down per pillar. So all of our different pillars, whether it's education, employment, you will see all the information, how those performance measures and objectives are broken down. All performance measures are the same this year, but target goals increasing. We did add one component for medical. We now have a partnership with the Stella Bird Whitman, and we are referring clients over there that need medical care. So that is one component that we're adding for our data collection. So not only will it be the dental, Langley, as I mentioned, will be still coming on site to CHP. We do have confirmation on that. They will be there on Mondays with their mobile unit. We'll do their Freedom Clinics, but we'll also be referring folks over to Stella Bird Whitman for that particular goal. And then for Active Marion Project, all of our performance measures are the same. And as you can see, the majority of those goals are increasing for Active Marion Project. And as usual, you guys will always have access to all of these online share via the scorecards, and we'll be presenting them quarterly as well. Are there any questions for AMP, fans, or CHP? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if you will, I think it's right next on the slide, speaking for me. Right, one more, one more. All right, so Beacon Point, we really, the biggest change you'll notice in there is we really wanted to focus on the campus supporting each other. So you will notice there's a new goal for all of our providers across campus that tracks referrals in and referrals out to on-campus providers. We want to make sure that SMA is taking advantage of Livestream, is taking advantage of part of Florida, and that everybody is using each other and getting the most out of the services that are on site. Those have been, like I said, on all providers' scorecards. Not too many, just like Jessica, not too many of the goals have changed, but the targets have been increased on almost everyone. We did want to make sure that we took a look at part of Florida, who is there 1 day a week. So we wanted to make sure that their no-show rate was tracked so that we could make sure that the clients were being followed up. And again, it can go back to on-site accountability and making sure that our warm handoff procedures are being followed and making clients feel welcome when they're going to different providers on campus. I'm not going to make you scroll all the way down there, Kurt, but since I'm up here, if we just talk about Matt for SMA, that also, we did not raise the targets on those because their targets are very high. So I had a discussion with LSF because we do fund these projects together. If the goals are already too high, we're not going to raise them up. And they have most of their match goals at 95% and 100%. So if they do reach those goals consistently, then we need to start talking about different performance measures and go that route. So did you guys have any questions looking at the Beacon Point and the estimate match? Anything stand out? Okay, thank you.
So Kurt, just for my benefit, is this, so annually, is this something that you go through just to review the goals for each of the funding, the projects we fund?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what this is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we do is we track them in mind share, and then based on how they performed and if they were reasonable goals or if we needed to make adjustments, we made that here at the end, but all throughout the year that we're tracking each quarter.
And there still isn't any way for us to compare ourselves with other communities in these areas. I mean, I love the goals, but I mean, honestly, I don't know if that's a high goal, a low goal, a reasonable goal. It's something which we need, but I don't know.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that, as Crystal mentioned, is working with LSF to make sure that these are realistic goals and we're tracking the correct things. We worked with Well Florida Council on AMP, fans, and CHP to make sure that these were things that should measure. There's nobody doing these programs in other areas, so it's really hard to see.
But ones like behavioral, there are standardized protocols, and so when Lutheran Services and DCF goes in and does their audits, we try to put our benchmarks above what their benchmarks would be on their performance measures when they go in to evaluate. So the good thing is, when we're setting these up, it was Lutheran Service that actually helped us, especially set up the original ones for every single category of treatment that we have. So, and that's what they use across 33 counties.
One thing that we added this year too is if anybody is getting an audit by some other funding source, that they need to provide us with an audit within X amount of days, then that way we can see
Nice. Good.
see if they're,
Of course, the full.
So on page 27 for the next performance objectives. The goals have stayed the same. Some of the target numbers have changed, increased, or decreased. Interfaith emergency services,
Okay.
sorry, have decreased. They're not seen as, or they're not taking care of as many psychotropic medications. We're contributing that to other providers in the community, Beacon Point, Heart of Florida, that can provide those prescriptions. So that we're decreasing. Cut Different. Their original goal when they first started with us was 10 young men would be in their program. This year they've gone up to 19, but the quality of the program has decreased a little. They want to focus more on serving 15 individuals and just give them a higher quality experience and really work on some discipline items. But with decreasing the number of clients by 4, they have increased their goal of grades improving and disciplinary action decreasing even lower. And then SMA community counselors, we're adding a new site to that, and that's Wear Gloves, and SMA provides a counselor on site. Are there any questions?
Is Cut Different integrated with community health program?
It's at that site, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, we do need to vote to accept the current targets as being presented by the staff. We need a motion.
Move approval.
So we need a motion.
I move that the goals be approved as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, ladies. Rescue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First thing on the agenda in operations is the data coordinator position. This is a position that's going to be half funded by our operation, which is in our budget for this next calendar year, as well as half it's going to be funded from the opioid settlement funds. There's a very nice detail in your package here of the job description. Kurt, there, you don't want to elaborate on that, but this is a position that the staff thinks we need. Like I said, it's half funded by the settlement, half funded by us.
Do you have a candidate in mind, and how much is it going to cost us? What do we have in that?
So the total cost, everything before reimbursement, half would be $95,000. We're being reimbursed $47,500, we give a $47,500 cost for the first year.
And do you have a candidate? Okay.
No, it's fine.
And the settlement, that's the one, so if we move forward with this decision next year, for the second budget year, we'd be incurring the full cost of it. Where's the settlement?
The settlement funds will cover it for how many years? 18?
When did we vote on that?
Well, 18 years is the amount of time that the county's gonna get the money,
It is.
those dollars,
But-
but, I mean, there is a committee that will,
I mean, I'm okay with it. Every year that's gotta come up with something. That's
Whether or not, right.
I didn't think it came up the first time yet, but you feel like it happened.
Say, be clear again,
I
we'll
thought
try.
we discussed it, but
It was in the,
It's in the draft of the MOU, right?
it's in the drafted MOU about,
Yeah. No, it's a draft, so it's in there.
Years ago, you know. Maybe it was, maybe it
it's
was.
not finalized yet.
But I mean, that's okay.
right.
But there's that risk.
So, again, so the county received funding from a settlement for some period of time, and it's via the MOU, it's allocating portions of it to different entities or different
there's
things.
actually a committee, and the hospital district does have a seat on that committee
Mhm.
on approving how those dollars will be allocated in the county. And if the committee's already pretty much put it in a draft format, I think you're probably safe in believing that it's.
I think so too, but
We can make a condition.
But it's, we don't want to be a problem.
But
Yeah,
18
it's
years,
good to know.
yeah, that's how long they'll come down from the state.
Which is that award?
It depends who you ask what time, but
It's
it's about
a-
$21 million,
It is
somewhere around
Give or
there.
take.
18, 19. It changes based on how many more settlements happen, I think over the period of years. And it's big pharma who is paying these dollars in to the state, and then it gets
I
allocated.
think they've got about $3 million. It's like double declining digits almost. Fat in the front and it just keeps going.
It is.
So this will be for us, position for
This
us.
position, and the reason why we were requesting for partially to be funded by the hospital district is so that that individual could, Brandy's position is part-time. This position would assist with all of the data collection or any of the grants that may be.
So it's something you feel we can use, and you're just telling us that we have an opportunity to have half of it be paid by somebody else.
Yeah, but.
I mean, at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
but
we need to.
honestly, first of all, it's absolutely not, these guys are the needs. But with the MOU, they're taking on a whole bunch of stuff, watching over that money coming out of the opioid claim.
Well, I think that's a separate thing that we're gonna vote on tomorrow for a third party to actually administer those dollars. And then at a later time, it's gonna come back, and I believe it's gonna be requested that the hospital district oversee those dollars. But we're not voting tomorrow on the hospital district, but that a third party will oversee it,
Who's we, the commission?
the commission.
So basically,
So I was
the,
just saying, I need some.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I apologize, I wasn't clear. Yes, send it to you.
so basically, the opioid settlement committee has the allocation of funds, but they decide on, specifically on their own projects that fit in line with our substance use disorder and behavioral health projects. And so the collaboration would be with the county that we would work in conjunction, basically overseeing the grants that they decide on and do the tracking and measurements, just like we do with ours. So this is really to increase capacity a little bit for ours, and also so we could oversee the two grants.
But it still
Yeah,
brings,
that makes sense.
still brings money into our community to help.
Oh, yeah, that's not, yeah, and,
You're right,
but it's fair that they're paying half of it. There's no question about
but, all
that.
right.
But this organization continues to collect a lot of data here, and so I think it's critical that we have someone that understands that data, can analyze that data, and want to make sure it's accurate, but
Yeah.
also give us good, what we do with that data.
We fought for it, we could be able to manage
Yeah, yeah.
it, so that, but it's very, so,
I think we should do
that
that.
much more work.
Should we do like we did earlier, Rusty? I think I make a motion that we accept this, and I don't know if you guys want to tie it into the MOU or not, or just.
No, I think the MOU, well, I'll speak for you, Madam Chair, but
I think-
the MOU, it will come at a later date, right?
Yes.
So as soon
That's my
as- yeah.
understanding. We don't need to tie it in.
We're not gonna hire somebody without having it squared away, so we'll make,
No.
so I'll make the motion, we do the match.
Okay. We
Well,
have, go ahead, Rusty.
Well, I was like, if you want to alter your motion that subject to an agreeable MOU on the opioid, what do you call that, committee, so we know we're getting half the money funded by them.
I feel bad for the person taking notes, so I'll make I'll go with the rest
So
of
what
the.
would you say?
The data collector right now is you.
Okay, so we have a motion to move forward with this position subject to the MOU being approved.
There we go.
Okay, so we have a motion, now we, I don't think you
Oh, that's a
can.
good question.
I think you need to abstain, right?
Because you're on the
Are you
opioid
representative?
settlement committee.
Yeah.
So we need to.
Second.
Council down there too.
That's, I'm agreed, just.
All right, so we have a second from Ron, so excluding Rich, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, it passes. Thank you.
Continue.
And the last thing, Madam Chair, we are going to be administering the domestic violence appropriation funds, and they request rightly so that those funds be not convenient funds, so we need permission or approval to open a new bank account specifically for the domestic violence appropriation funds.
Yes. expense.
Does that have to be in a separate account? You can't just be on a separate?
Nope, separate account.
Separate account, they'll come legally. And the bank will be Truist Bank, so I'll full disclosure.
Don't have a conflict then, huh?
I do have confidence.
All right, so we need a motion,
I move to
open a separate bank.
open a separated bank account for this,
All right,
domestic violence.
I'll second the motion, but I have a question, I'm sorry. Can those funds be interest bearing?
And then we want,
interest
Interest
bearing.
bearing account.
Earning
they
interest on it.
have to be, Deborah, there was a requirement that it be
Escrow or?
interest bearing, that it is an interest bearing account.
So
Well,
let's
valid.
get
And who
Truist
gets
up
the
their
interest?
interest
Does it
rate.
go back into the,
Yeah, it has to go towards the appropriation.
okay, I think so.
Yes.
So
Yes,
let's-
now I have a comment, but that's our recollections.
Yeah.
Right, so
And I make a motion, rest of the negotiations with Truist.
the rate.
Let me please, I want to be on that side of the table.
Exactly.
Baseball guys, right?
Yeah, I want to go with you.
Yeah, you go.
Okay, so
It's
we
been a long
have
time.
a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Rest
Rest
seconds.
second,
Okay,
yeah.
all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right. Is that it, Rusty? Anything else?
That's it, right there.
Okay.
Yep.
To investments, do we have the guys in the
I
holding cells?
think I might, let's see.
All right. Hello, Nathan.
Hello, board. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, evening. All right. What you doing, Kurt?
I am making sure they do what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
I can, sir, yes.
Okay. Floor is yours.
Looks like I can share screens as well, so let me jump in. All right, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So on slide 44, just very briefly then, with August market performance, we really saw quite a bumpy ride of equities during August. You know, the first 3 trading days, US equities were down 6%. That was off the back of increasing concerns that economic data was slowing faster than expected and therefore challenging the thesis of this soft landing story that's been playing out thus far. However, along with weak economic data came weaker than expected inflation data, and so as such, the market rallied towards the end of the month and actually ended up in positive territory. So US equities were up about 2%. We saw international equities just in the middle here up a bit more than that, 3%. Now that was aided partly by US dollar weakening, and so for every kind of unit of international currency, it had a positive impact on US dollar returns. And then within fixed income, the lower than expected inflation data that came out in August led to market expectations of faster, deeper interest rate cuts. Obviously, we've already seen a 50 basis points cut in September, and so the 10-year Treasury yield, just as bellwether in August, fell by 13 basis points down to 3.9%. We're around about 3.8% today. So a bit of a bumpy ride, but overall positive month for equities and bonds. And you can see here in our focus of the year-to-date column on slide 45 that it's really been another very, very strong year for equities. So US equities up about 18%, looking at the broadest market index, international equities up about 11%, and bonds up about 3%. And so it's no surprise as we turn to slide 46 that the market value of assets rose by about $3 million over the month to just north of $310 billion. Within each of the underlying asset class composites, your actual allocation was within the permissible range as is set out in your investment policy statement. The only exception to that was the $4.5 million allocation to private real assets, which we've discussed before, and as the trustee knows, is a legacy position, the Pretium private equity funds that is held within the Greystone account that they inherited when they took over management 2 and a bit years ago. So no concerns there. If we move then into each of the underlying providers, the next 3 slides are really intended to show that it's asking the question, are any of the managers or which parts of the managers' portfolios are out of compliance? And so when you see these upside down blue triangles here for Truist, it means essentially everything was in compliance, and that you can see the further to the right of the solid vertical black line, the more overweight they are within that asset class. So Truist is quite overweight US equities and correspondingly underweight to public real assets and to private credit, but all of those are within their permissible allocation ranges. Crescent is an example where they do have one area of non-compliance. However, there's no real concern here because this is private credit and is an area of the portfolio that we want to see the allocation being built up over time. They're ahead of the curve essentially, and that's a result of reclassifying alternatives allocations to private credit. They've really been delivering pretty strong performance, so no concerns with Crescent as it pertains to asset allocation. And get it right. Finally, just with Greystone, a couple of areas of asset classes with outside of policy. I've already mentioned private real assets. Directional marketable alternatives are the other one. And again, not really an area of concern because this was an area that we're seeing reducing in allocation over time. And again, they've been out of compliance for reasons that have been out of their control. So we're certainly not penalizing them in this area as we oversee the managers. What's really nice to see on slide 50, if we just look at the first column, which is the nominal market value, being back up at $310 million, is that we're actually close to, not quite there, but close to the high watermark in December 2021 of $315 million. So it's really nice to see this market recovery that's taken place over the last 18 months or so. Where we're not quite back up to our high watermark is the inflation adjusted over or under column on the far right side. So again, that buffer over inflation in terms of the value of assets beating the rate of inflation since inception continues to rise back up to 55 million, but is still some way short of the 90 million that was in place at the end of 2021. And, sorry, I skipped ahead. The next few slides, we're really focused on the month of August. And so we're looking at how the fund performed versus the benchmark and what the sources of outperformance or underperformance were. So slide 51 sets out for the Marion County Hospital District portfolio as a whole, so the $310 million. The overall return on assets was 1.38%, just on the top left-hand corner here, which was 0.09 basis points under their fund benchmark. And you can see where that came from is predominantly the managers are underperforming their benchmarks within the composites, so particularly within non-US equity and within US equity as well. If we then dive into each OCIO provider in turn, Truist actually had really nice performance and was the strongest performer over the month. So they returned 1.56%, 9 basis points ahead of their benchmark. And really, that was driven by a few factors. One was just their overweight position in US equity, having a higher allocation to a part of the market that performed strongly helped them. Another area was manager selection within the bottom row here, diversifying multiple alternatives. So they have a new manager in the fund, Gotham. It's a $3.4 million investment, which returned almost 3.5% over the month. It's a long-short equity manager. They had really nice both market movements and also stock selection within the month. So very positive to see. And Truist continues to be a manager where short-term performance is improving, albeit we have still yet to see their medium-term and long-term track record catch up with the benchmark. Crescent was actually the worst performer in August. It underperformed by 40 basis points, as you can see on the top left-hand side. So the red bar being the left-hand side of the axis means that it underperformed. And predominantly, this was manager selection within US equities and also directional marketable alternatives. So within US equities, they have an allocation to Paladine business development companies, and it lagged the market, was essentially flat over the month, as was one of their small and mid-cap managers. So a bit of underperformance there, but as you'll see later on in the presentation, their medium-term track record is one of the stronger. And finally, just to wrap up, Greystone. So Greystone, again, starting to, somewhat similar to Truist in 2024, starting to trend positively. So outperformed by 5 basis points over the month. They've had some, generally been a bit more defensively positioned, which has hurt them up until the last few months, but actually been a tailwind to performance over July and August. So they were, for example, had a higher interest rate duration position within their fixed income portfolio that led to some outperformance, and they had more of a value bias within their US equity performance portfolio, and a bias towards dividend-producing stocks, both of which contributed to relative performance over the period. So that's the short-term track record, and then I'll just end here on the longer-term track record, which is to say we're almost at the end of the fiscal year. So this fiscal year-to-date column is essentially 11 months, and you can see here that nominal returns have been very, very strong. So the portfolio is up 17.5%. However, it is behind the benchmark, and that's predominantly due to Greystone and specifically within areas such as US equity and private equity as well. So just to kind of point out the difference there between the nominal returns, very, very strong, certainly well in advance of our strategic targets as set out in the investment policy statement, but we're not yet, as an aggregate, seeing active manager performance from the 3 OCA requirements coming through. And where we just to dig very briefly underneath the hood here, we are seeing Truist, as I mentioned, trending very positively over this fiscal year to date 1 year period. They're actually ahead of their benchmark. They've been aided by some of their non-equity positions, US equity positions, as well as their diversified alternative funds as well, provide very strong relative performance. Crescent's also been up over the fiscal year to date 1 year period. For Crescent, it's really been their alternative expertise which has helped out the most. So some areas such as private equity, private credit, and directional marketable alternatives has been the biggest additives for Crescent. Although again, we would point out that while we provide performance commentary to the trustees on a regular basis, we don't want to miss the wood for the trees here in that when we oversee the managers, we're really more focused on the 3-year performance and the 5-year performance, and those are areas that continue to lag the benchmark, but we are encouraged by some shorter term, more positive performance. And the final word on Greystone, which is just to say they've been the clear laggard over the last 11 months or over the last year, down over 2% versus their portfolio. We would note that about 1% of it has come within US equities. They've been more defensively positioned in terms of having larger allocations to smaller and mid caps, having larger allocations to more value or dividend oriented stocks. And within private equity has probably been the second area where there's been this underperformance. Greystone is a difficult one. We've talked to you, the trustees, for many months now over the fact that they have no control over these positions. Their performance continues to gyrate along with the market. They've got a venture capital portfolio which has particularly suffered over the last year, and it's one that is continuing to be in runoff, but generally speaking, the private markets, the IPO market hasn't been as open in 2024 or 2023 as it has in previous years. And so while we do expect performance to improve and hope that performance improves, it's not something that we're marking Greystone down on their scorecard as for.
I have a question. If you, I don't know where the camera is.
But if you normalize Greystone's performance absent the things that they don't have control over, I don't know if you've done that, but do you have a feel how they would be performing on the same, if you use the same relative measure and you took out the ones that they don't have, they inherited their position or they're working through, do you have a commentary on how they're performing absent those metrics?
Just a few, we haven't done a true apples-to-apples comparison, but just looking at the liquid parts of their portfolio, US equity, international equity, fixed income, and public real assets, I'd say they're still behind the other two, but not to the same extent. They're probably, I think, at least half of the difference is due to this alternatives parts of their portfolio.
Well, the first 18 months though, that they were in, they did extremely well with the stuff they were stuck with. Because it was debt in a falling interest market, and equities were down in, what was that, 2021, 2022?
2022, correct.
So it was a huge advantage for them to have the private debt that they don't want. So now that has flipped, and it's working against them. But I think if you mix those two together, you come up with zero effect on legacy investments.
Yeah, and I don't really more just, so it benefited there and hurt them, it's hurting them now. I was trying to get at how they're doing as a manager. If you pull out the things that they're getting an excuse for or a pass on.
I think on investment to date, their numbers fairly accurate. Their total return versus benchmark return.
Yeah, no, I'm not questioning that. I'm just their ability to manage the funds relative to the other folks that don't have this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they're under control.
Yeah.
And I don't think that legacy investments affected it.
Okay.
Net.
Nathan? Do you have any other commentary on that?
Yeah, I would agree. It's almost, you could say it's really nice diversification, because even though Greystone suffered over the last year, when you look back over the longest period for them, which is coming up to 3 years, they're the only manager that's ahead of their policy benchmark. So there's 4.85 here over the 2 years and 11 months versus 4.4%. And to Rich's point, they've had some private equity funds over the period which have clearly hugely underperformed and lost money. But on the flip side, they've had this private real asset fund which is up 35% annualized. One of the things that we're looking to bring, and it'd be really nice when we have the 3-year anniversary for Greystone, is this manager dashboard that focuses much more on the 3-year and 5-year performance detail. And what we'll do for Greystone is we'll probably try and segment it out between the controllable parts of their portfolio and the non-controllable parts of their portfolio.
Is it safe to assume that the fees that we pay the 3 managers is the same in dollars?
No, it is not. And we are actually, Wilshire is working on digging into the fees
Okay.
and working on that for us, but that is something that we'll have to discuss as to the in-depth of that, because it is not in their contract with us to do that, so that would require.
Is that right?
That would require us, for the in-depth piece of it, as far back as we want them to go, that could potentially cost us additional funds to
Well,
do.
why don't we put it to the 3 individuals that we said? Remember, they're not gonna want. So whatever question you have for Wilshire, you can ask them individually, and they would answer that question. And Greystone was the one that was at, I want to say, 22 basis points or whatever, raise on that one. And I think Preston was wise, 29 basis points. But it's,
I don't have it here in front of me.
I
don't
it's been 3
remember.
years. But I remember that was a huge thing for them, was that the management fee was really low. Which reflects, of course, in their performance too, right? Because the management fees are built into their
Right.
performance. So net, it almost doesn't matter. Right? Because how much are we getting after everybody takes their cut? But there was promises made, you're absolutely right. Between the 3 of them said that total management fees would be And I want to say the order was Crescent was the highest, Truist was next, and then there was a big delta between those two, and Gravestone was incredibly low. I think. Does that make sense?
I got different data.
Well, we've looked at the fee.
Okay, I can.
This is dated, this is from back in 22, 23 potentially, but combined fees, so what their direct fees plus what the fancy terminology is sub-managers.
I'm talking about this their fees.
Okay, just their fees is, would be Berman is the highest, Greystone would be second, and Truist would be third, with a total delta between first and third of about $40,000 per year.
Was that September of 21?
Probably,
Oh,
that's
we
maybe
did.
back that far.
So what was the total?
So Berman was 67.5, right? Truist was 66.5 and Greystone was 63?
That's the combined fees.
That's what the
Yeah.
actual fees.
Yeah, combined fees. The effective rates for Berman were 0.225. For Truist is 0.178 and 0.192 for Greystone.
Yeah.
And the combined of the three fees every year was back with the asset valuations back then being about $30 million lower was $560,000 per year. When you add in all the sub-manager fees, it's up almost to 1.8 million per year.
You get it from, it's a good question.
Well, I just think about the total transparency that we ought to at least annually have some idea of what kind of fees we're paying for their services. And
They do provide that though, no?
they may, I just never seen it at this level.
You said 1.8 million combined per year, approximately.
With all the sub fees.
It's all based on asset values, so,
So like if you buy if they buy a private equity, they're gonna be paying, 1% at least. A lot of them it's 2 and 20, 2% plus 20% of the profit.
The higher the risk, based on that.
No, not necessarily. The more management, so like with the private equity guys, they gotta stay all on top of it, so it takes a little more work, and they wanna get paid for that. The guys that are buying ETFs, just a
That's
basket,
based on the product.
they're 12 basis points, but the private equity guys are used to be 2 and 20. And 20%, 2% of total invested and 20% of profit.
So the 1.8 is divided approximately the same between the three?
No.
Do you have numbers?
Depends on the portfolio, what's inside the portfolio.
Do you have an idea what the cost? Can you tell me the distribution of the three?
So
I guess that's what we're talking
That's the
about.
question, that's what we're,
Yeah.
that's what we,
That's
talking
big-
to Wilshire
It's a
about doing.
big difference between the three though.
So Rich, this is a little more your world, but is it unreasonable for an account like this just to request? I mean, we're coming up on year
Not at
end.
all.
Like, we'd like an annual accounting of our fees.
They can absolutely give you that, sure.
That's what we've been working with Wilshire.
Nathan, they can give us that, right?
Yeah, no, we can do this, I think.
But wouldn't each one of those guys have those numbers in front of them? They know what they're paying their outside managers, and they know what they're charging us, no? They give me those numbers.
Oh, you're.
I think so.
That-
I think sometimes when it's, the analogy we often use here is an iceberg, and it's really kind of understanding the market and the individual asset classes, so you understand you're getting as many components of that iceberg, both under the water and above the water, that we need for that full transparency. So that's something that we absolutely do, both in terms of the OCIO manager, the underlying manager of an ETF or a mutual fund, and then the alternatives that not only can be the 2 and 20 that Rich, you laid out, but often the managers that Crescent, Truist, Greystone have put in place are fund of funds. So there's 2 layers of management fees, there's 2 layers of performance fees, and then there's fund wrapper fees as well, admin, legal, trustee, what have you. And so it's all of those 6 components that we would review and provide.
And I think we would want one single entity to do that so that we we're comparing apples to apples and not just one fund, one manager decides to present to us this way, another one presents it another way.
Okay, but if you would say that one of those advisors, total fees, they would have to provide, I think. They provide it.
To you,
Yeah, I think,
I don't want to say.
Well, of course, we can,
It depends how much they want for it too.
yeah.
I mean, if it was $100,000, I'd ask those three guys a question, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's, it's out of my skis here, but it's some value. I think there's some value to having somebody independent tell us that now.
Okay.
If he's gonna charge, I don't know what he's gonna charge to do that, but I mean, I think if you're.
How much are you gonna charge to do that?
I think we'll get back to you on that after I meet with Nathan and let you know. Okay, any other questions for Nathan, or anybody? Thank you very much, Nathan. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You ready?
I am ready. First on the agenda, I believe to be the financial statements, is that right? That's correct. So,
Yes.
beginning on page 64 of your document is the month and year-to-date for August 31st, 2024. Both the balance sheets and the statements of operations of the organization. Balance sheet remains the biggest asset, being the investments, which, as we already heard from Nathan, appreciated significantly during this month, and bringing up year-to-date appreciation to $47 million. So pretty strong investment performance year-to-date, fiscal year-to-date. So that's been pretty significant. Otherwise, all remaining assets and liabilities remain current and in line with prior years. Same thing with the income and expenses. Income being the investment allocations and earnings, and the expenses being programmatic and grant related, all remaining in line with approved budget line items. Any questions about the financial statements included in the packet?
No, we need a motion to approve these.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
73 was the next bullet item, which is seeking approval of the budget for fiscal year 2024 and 2025. Believe it or not, today is the last day of the fiscal year for the organization. So tomorrow there'll be a new budget year starting. So included in the packet was where we were at prior to the meeting. During this meeting, as we all are aware, we had two approvals of items that were staff recommendations are now approved as part of the budget above. So if need be, Kurt, I can plug in and show everybody if that's what the trustees would desire.
Get that.
Do we desire that?
We don't need to do that. I think that we all understand what we approved earlier.
We moved the $72,000 as well as the $217,000.
Yeah, I think we're good with that. No need to.
Okay, so then, just as an update to the Board of Trustees, and after moving those two items above, we have what will be a trustee designated fund of approximately $900,000. And there are still projects under consideration of $565,000. So even if everything was approved, it'd be $335,000 in trustee designated. So those items being the account on Main Street, which you heard earlier, the build out next door on the municipal health website. Any questions about the budget? If not, we do seek approval.
So we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor of the budget?
Aye.
Budget passes. Thank you, Matt. Real quick before we go, I know this is going to upset Harvey tremendously, so I apologize. But we're going to do a little change up on the team leads for each area. So strategic initiatives, if you're okay, I'm going to ask Dr. Harold to take that over.
That's not how this works.
So Stephanie, if you are in agreement to take that over?
Yes, you'll enjoy it. Just so you can be on it.
I'll be on there.
All right, thank you. Rusty, you'll continue on operations.
Yes, Madam Chair.
And I'll do investments and Matt do finance. And Ken, would you please take over? We need a position for an audit lead.
Audit lead?
Yes.
I can't even balance a checkbook.
Sure.
Thank you
I don't
very
know what I
much.
just did. What is, wait.
They'll explain it to you later. You've already
Why do I have to
accepted.
answer?
You've already accepted. So, also moving on, just a reminder of our procedures. If you were approached as a trustee for potential funding of a project or whatnot, please, the procedures are to direct them to Kurt and Deborah. And then they will vet them out. That's their role to us, to help us out. They will vet them and then make a determination whether they need to bring it forth to the trustees. So, please remember to do that. And am I forgetting anything else?
Oh, I have one of those.
Do we have anything else from anybody? Michelle, do you have anything you want to?
I do not.
All right, well then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Chris Spears called.
Final word.